ChatGPT said, Monica Reyes was a 28-year-old woman who loved nature more than anything else in the world. She worked as a wildlife conservation volunteer in Louisiana, and she spent most of her days exploring forests, swamps, and rivers. She was smart, brave, and very passionate about protecting animals, especially turtles. Monica had done many trips before, but the one she planned that morning felt like just another regular day. She woke up early, around 6 a.m., and had a small breakfast. The weather was cloudy, but warm. Her mission was simple. She had to go into the swamp and tag a few endangered turtles for research. She had done this many times, so she didn't feel nervous. She packed her gear, which included a water bottle, GPS device, flashlight, snacks, a walkie-talkie, and her notebook. Before leaving, she signed her name on the log sheet at the base camp and told one of the other volunteers that she would be back in 2 or 3 hours. Monica entered the swamp around 7:15 a.m. The swamp was quiet and peaceful, filled with green trees, buzzing insects, and the sound of birds. The ground was soft and muddy in places, but she knew where to walk. She checked the map on her GPS and headed toward the place where the turtles were last seen. On the way, she stopped and made notes in her book whenever she spotted signs of turtle movement. But after about 45 minutes, something strange happened. The GPS device suddenly started acting up. The screen blinked and then turned off. Monica tapped it a few times, but nothing worked. No problem, she said to herself. I've been here before. She decided to continue walking, thinking she could find her way back without it. The sky started to get darker. A light wind began to blow, and Monica looked up. Thick clouds were forming above her. It looked like a storm was coming faster than expected. She picked up her pace, hoping to finish her tagging quickly and return before the rain started. Suddenly, her foot slipped on a patch of wet mud near a narrow ditch. She lost her balance and fell down hard into a deep, hidden ravine. Her ankle twisted, and a sharp pain shot up her leg. She screamed in pain, but there was no one around to hear her. She tried to stand up, but her ankle couldn't support her weight. Her pants were torn, her hands were dirty, and her backpack had landed a few feet away. For the first time, Monica felt scared. She looked around. The trees were thick, and she couldn't tell which way she had come from. The GPS was broken, and now she couldn't walk properly. She crawled over to her backpack, grabbed her water bottle, and took a sip. She took out her walkie-talkie and pressed the button. Hello, this is Monica. Can anyone hear me? She said again and again, but all she heard was static. The signal wasn't reaching the base camp. The rain started to fall. It wasn't heavy at first, but enough to make everything wet and slippery. Monica pulled out her small plastic sheet and used it to cover herself. She found a dry spot under some large leaves and sat down, hugging her knees. She knew she had to stay calm and save her energy. She still hoped someone would come looking for her soon. Back at the camp, the other volunteers had no idea she was in danger. Monica was known for staying longer than planned. They thought she was just enjoying her time in the field. Nobody felt worried. Hours passed. It became evening. Her name was still not checked back in on the log sheet, but no one paid much attention. In the swamp, Monica spent the night cold, wet, and in pain.
Oh.
She couldn't sleep well because of the noises around her. She heard frogs, owls, and the sound of something moving through the water. She didn't know if it was a snake or something bigger. She kept the flashlight close, but its battery was already getting low. She held the walkie-talkie tightly in her hand and tried it again. Hello, this is Monica. I'm stuck. Please, respond. But the silence continued. The next morning, she woke up sore and tired. Her ankle was still swollen, and now she was also very thirsty. She had only a little water left. Her snack bar was still in the bag, but she didn't know how long she would be out here, so she only took a few bites. She tried crawling a little to find higher ground, hoping she could get a better signal on the radio, but the swamp was thick, and her movement was slow. She saw a small tree trunk lying on the ground and decided to drag herself there and sit against it. Ouch! She tried to stay positive. She started talking to herself out loud, saying things like, "You're strong, Monica. You've got this. Stay calm." It helped a little, but her energy was getting lower. She thought about her parents, her friends, and her little dog at home. Tears came to her eyes, but she wiped them away. She wasn't ready to give up. By now, she had been missing for more than 24 hours. Her radio was still working, but the battery indicator was blinking. Monica didn't know if it was still sending a signal, but she kept trying. "This is Monica. I'm here." "I'm still here," she said quietly. Then she paused, trying to think of something someone might recognize. She whispered, "One left. One left," referring to the last turtle she hadn't found before the accident. She didn't know that those words would matter. She didn't know that someone would hear. The swamp remained silent around her. The sun rose higher. Monica leaned back against the tree trunk, closed her eyes, and whispered once more, "One left." "To be continued, ... Shall I continue with part 2 next?" At the research base, everything seemed normal in the early morning hours. The volunteers were busy preparing for the day's tasks. Some were reviewing maps, others were checking weather reports, and a few were getting ready to go out into the field. Nobody realized that Monica Reyes hadn't returned. Everyone believed she had probably camped out in the swamp for the night, as she sometimes did when tracking turtles. It wasn't unusual for her to spend extra hours or even stay overnight. Without warning, but by noon, a quiet worry started to spread among the team. Sarah, one of the senior volunteers and Monica's close friend, noticed something strange. Monica's bunk was untouched. Her jacket was still hanging on the hook, and her phone was on the charger, completely untouched from the day before. Flipped through the logbook and saw Monica had signed out at 7:10 a.m. the previous morning. But there was no return time. Sarah's heart began to beat faster. "Hey," she said to the team leader, "has anyone heard from Monica?" "No," he replied, distracted. "I thought she was with the river team." "She's not," Sarah said firmly. "And she didn't come back last night." Now everyone's focus shifted. Sarah's concern was taken seriously. The walkie-talkies were checked. Monica's frequency had been silent for almost 20 hours. That was no longer normal, it was dangerous. A full team was called together. Radios buzzed. The head of operations contacted the local search and rescue group. The table and the last known coordinates from Monica's GPS check-in were pulled up. But the problem was, there were no recent GPS updates. The device had stopped sending data right after she left the camp area. Meanwhile, in the swamp, Monica sat under the same tree trunk, her body tired and weak. Her foot throbbed with pain and her mouth was dry. She had finished the last drop of water and her protein bar was gone. Her flashlight was dead. The walkie-talkie still made small beeping sounds, but no voice had come through. She pressed the talk button again and whispered, "Can anyone hear me?" Her voice was hoarse. "One left. I'm still here." She didn't know that her tiny, tired whisper was being picked up very faintly at the base camp. Aaron Caldwell was one of the younger tech volunteers, usually in charge of data backups and signal checks. He had stayed up the night before, trying to repair one of the camp's faulty radios. Around noon, he decided to scan through the channels again, just in case Monica's radio picked up a signal. As he turned the dial slowly, he stopped suddenly. A soft, almost ghost-like whisper came through. "One left." Aaron froze, replayed the sound, then adjusted the frequency again. The words were not clear, but they were definitely human, and they matched Monica's voice. He rushed out of the room. "Sarah, I think I heard her. I picked something up on her radio channel." Sarah came running. The team leader joined them. They played the sound again. Everyone went silent. It wasn't much, but it was a sign proof that Monica was alive and still had her radio. Now the urgency became real. Local authorities were called, drones were prepared. A helicopter team from the state emergency office was placed on standby. A full search and rescue mission was launched. Back in the swamp, Monica had no idea any of this was happening. Quietly under the leaves, trying to stay awake. Her eyes were heavy, her stomach growled, her skin was covered in bites from mosquitoes, and the mud around her had started to smell. She didn't even have the strength to cry anymore. Her mind drifted back to when she was a child, walking with her father through a nature reserve. He had taught her to love animals and to respect the wild. "The earth always speaks, Monica," he used to say, "but you have to be quiet to hear it." She had lived by those words her whole life. Now, lying in the wild she loved so much, she felt smaller than ever. But she wasn't ready to give up. At the base camp, the rescue team worked fast. Aaron worked with a signal tracking expert to triangulate Monica's location. They used the faint radio signal, old GPS data, and wind pattern information to narrow down the area. It was a huge task, thousands of trees, murky water, and unclear trails. But they had one big clue, her last whisper. The radio caught it again. Faint, but slightly clearer. Same channel, same words. One left. "Start the search there," the rescue leader said. "She's sending a message. Let's bring her home." The rescue team split into 2 units. One would go by boat along the narrow water paths. The other would go by air, searching from above. Everyone knew time was short. Monica had been gone more than 30 hours now. She was likely injured. Without food and water, she might not last another night. In the air, a trained rescue pilot flew low over the swamp. He scanned the area with binoculars, while a spotter leaned out of the open side door. The ground below looked like a green ocean of trees and shadows. "Wait," the spotter said suddenly. "Right." Near a bend in the water, under a large cypress tree, something shiny caught the sunlight. It was a small piece of metal, her radio, and near it, a faint outline of a person lying very still. They circled again and confirmed it. "Found her," the spotter shouted. "We've got Monica." The team on the ground was radioed in. They marked the spot on the map and raced toward her location in a small rescue boat. They moved fast, steering through tight paths and muddy curves. When they reached her, they found Monica barely conscious. Her lips were dry, and her eyes opened slowly when she heard voices. "Monica, it's okay. We've got you," one rescuer said as they wrapped her in a dry blanket. She tried to speak, but only managed to whisper, "One left." The rescuer smiled, understanding what she meant. Even after all that time, all that pain, she was still thinking about the last turtle she hadn't tagged. They carried her carefully to the boat and called for a medevac helicopter. As the blades of the helicopter roared and lifted her into the air, the team on the ground stood in quiet respect. Monica had survived. Her whisper had brought them to her. To be continued. Monica was only half aware as the rescuers lifted her into the helicopter. The sudden noise of the blades spinning above her made her feel both scared and relieved at the same time. She was weak, tired, and her body ached everywhere. But she knew help had finally arrived. She tried to open her eyes fully, but the bright light made her squint. The rescuers spoke gently to her, telling her she was safe now and that they would take care of her. The flight to the hospital felt like a dream. The wind from the open door mixed with the cool air inside the helicopter. Monica could smell the sharp scent of medical supplies. One of the rescue medics checked her pulse and temperature, wrapping her in a warm blanket and giving her a few small sips of water. Monica tried to thank them, but her voice was only a whisper. She felt tears on her face. She wasn't sure if she was crying because of pain, relief, or both. At the hospital, doctors and nurses rushed to her side. They placed her on a bed and checked her from head to toe. Her ankle was badly swollen and possibly broken. She was dehydrated and covered in mosquito bites. Her face was pale, and her lips were cracked from lack of water. Still, the doctors told her she was lucky, very lucky to be found when she was Sarah. Her friend from the camp hurried to the hospital as soon as she heard Monica was safe. She arrived just in time to see Monica being wheeled into her room. Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she grabbed Monica's hand. "You're safe," Sarah whispered. "We found you." Monica tried to smile. Her voice was still weak, but she managed to say, "I knew you'd come." For hours, Monica drifted in and out of sleep. Sometimes she remembered being in the swamp, feeling the fear and the pain. Other times she dreamed she was back home, walking her dog or laughing with her parents. Each time she woke, she was grateful to see she was in a safe, warm room with people who cared about her. The doctors came and went, checking her foot, her temperature, and her heart. One doctor explained that her ankle was badly sprained and she would need a cast for a few weeks. She had lost a lot of fluids, but would recover fully with rest, food, and water. The mosquito bites would heal too, and she hadn't caught any dangerous infections. Monica listened quietly, nodding and thanking everyone who helped her. Soon, news of Monica's rescue began to spread. First, the team at the wildlife camp called her family. Her parents were so relieved, they cried on the phone and promised to come see her as soon as possible. The local news wanted to talk to Monica about her time in the swamp. Even people from other wildlife groups sent messages of support and good wishes. Everyone was amazed at her courage and her will to survive. But Monica didn't feel like a hero. She remembered every moment of those 32 hours how scared she was, how she tried to stay calm, and how she just kept hoping someone would hear her. What she remembered most was how alone she felt in the swamp, not knowing if anyone would find her and wondering if her last words on the radio would even matter. As Monica recovered, Sarah stayed by her side. She helped Monica eat, kept her company, and listened to her tell her story. Monica talked about the moment she fell, the pain in her ankle, and how she tried again and again to call for help on the radio. She told Sarah about the fear, the strange sounds at night, and how she rationed her last protein bar, saving tiny pieces just in case. One afternoon, Aaron Caldwell, the young volunteer who caught Monica's radio whisper, visited her. He brought a small, funny card with a turtle drawn on it and said, "You're the bravest person I know, Monica. That one left message saved your life." Monica smiled and thanked him. She told Aaron how she was thinking about the last turtle she hadn't tagged, even when she was weak and scared. "It was the only thing I could think of saying," she explained softly. "I hoped someone would understand." Aaron nodded. "We did, and we'll always listen a little more closely from now on." While Monica was healing in the hospital, the wildlife camp made a plan. They would improve their safety checks and radio systems so that no one would ever be forgotten. In the field again, everyone agreed that Monica's experience had taught them a powerful lesson about communication and teamwork. Monica spent several more days in the hospital. Her parents finally arrived, and when they saw her, they hugged her tightly and promised never to let her go on a solo trip again. Monica laughed and cried with them. She was happy to see her family and felt lucky to be alive. As her strength returned, Monica began to walk again, slowly at first, using crutches. The nurses and doctors cheered her on. Every day she felt a little stronger. She watched the news and read messages from people who were inspired by her story. Some kids even sent her drawings of turtles, and Monica put them up on the wall of her hospital room. When Monica was finally ready to leave the hospital, the whole rescue team came to visit. They gave her a small stuffed turtle and a card signed, "Bye everyone, you're our hero, Monica," the head rescuer said. "You reminded us never to give up hope." Monica thanked everyone. She knew she would never forget what happened in the swamp, and she would always be grateful for the people who searched for her and never gave up. Before she left, Monica told Sarah and Aaron one last thing. "There's still one turtle left. Out there," she said with a small smile. "When I get better, I want to go back and find it, but this time I want you both with me." They all laughed together, feeling the bond that had formed through the ordeal. Monica was no longer alone, and she knew she would never be forgotten again. To be continued. Shall I continue with part 4? In the days after Monica left the hospital, her story spread quickly throughout the small town and beyond. People in the community wanted to meet her and hear about her survival. Local news stations called the research center, and reporters even visited the swamp to show where Monica had been found. She was still tired and moving slowly because of her injured ankle. But her mind was strong, and she wanted to thank everyone who helped her. The rescue team was celebrated as heroes, but they insisted that Monica was the real hero. They told everyone how she kept trying to send messages on her radio, never giving up hope, even when she was weak and scared. At a small gathering at the research center, Monica stood on her crutches and thanked each person by name. "Without you," she said, "I wouldn't be here." After the ceremony, Monica sat quietly with Sarah and Aaron. The three of them talked about everything that had happened. Monica told them in more detail how she survived in the swamp. She described the strange animal noises, the bugs that crawled over her arms at night, and the feeling of being lost for so long. She admitted that there were times when she wanted to sleep and never wake up. But she kept thinking about the last turtle she hadn't tagged. "I knew that if I could just hold on, I might still finish my work," she said with a little smile. Sarah squeezed Monica's hand. "You're the bravest person I know," she whispered. "I'm just lucky you all listened," Monica replied. That evening, Monica received a phone call from a group of young students at a nearby school. Their teacher put them on speakerphone so Monica could hear their voices. One by one, the children thanked her for being brave and for caring about turtles. Monica smiled as she listened to their cheerful voices. They promised to help protect wildlife in their own town, and Monica encouraged them to always listen to the world around them. As Monica recovered, the research center made changes based on her experience. They bought better GPS devices, radios with stronger batteries, and new safety gear for all the volunteers. They also set a new rule: no one would ever go out into the swamp alone. Anika was glad to see these changes. She didn't want anyone else to feel forgotten like she had. One morning, about a week after leaving the hospital, Monica sat on her front porch, enjoying the warm sun and gentle breeze. Her foot was still in a cast, but she was feeling stronger every day. She watched the birds fly past and listened to the sound of frogs in the distance. For the first time in weeks, she felt peaceful. Then Sarah and Aaron arrived, each carrying a bag and wearing their research uniforms. "Are you ready for an adventure?" Sauer asked with a big grin. Monica laughed. "I'm not sure I'm ready for a big adventure, but maybe a small one." The three friends got into Aaron's old truck and drove out to the edge of the swamp. The air was fresh and the trees seemed greener than ever. Monica used her crutches to make her way down the short path to the water's edge. The place felt different now, more welcoming, less scary. Monica was nervous but also excited. Sarah handed Monica a small GPS device and a walkie-talkie. "This time, you're not alone," she said. Monica nodded and smiled. She was grateful for her friends and for the second chance she had been given. Together, they searched for signs of the last turtle, the one Monica hadn't tagged before. Her accident. They followed tracks in the mud and checked under logs and along the water's edge. Hours passed, but Monica didn't feel tired. She was with her friends, surrounded by nature, doing the work she loved. As the sun began to set, Aaron called out, "I see something." Monica and Sarah hurried over. There, half hidden under a pile of leaves, was the turtle Monica had been searching for. It was smaller than the others, with a shell that gleamed in the soft evening light. Monica smiled and gently picked it up. She attached a small tag to its shell, making sure it wouldn't hurt the animal. Then she set the turtle back on the ground and watched as it slowly made its way to the water. Monica looked at Sarah and Aaron. "I think I'll call her Whisper," she said. They all sat together in the quiet swamp, feeling proud and thankful. Monica realized that the swamp wasn't a place of fear anymore. It was a place of hope and second chances as night fell. The three friends headed back to the truck. Monica looked out the window as they drove away, watching the trees disappear behind her. She knew she would return to the swamp many more times, but she would never forget the lessons she had learned. At home, Monica wrote in her journal about the experience. She wrote about her fears, her hopes, and the people who helped her. Also wrote a letter to the children at the nearby school telling them never to give up, even when things seem impossible, in the weeks that followed. Monica's story appeared in newspapers and on TV. People from across the country sent her letters and emails. Some wanted to hear her story in person, so Monica was invited to speak at schools and community centers. She told everyone about her love for nature, her time in the swamp, and how important it was to listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart. Monica's rescue also made other wildlife groups pay attention to safety across the state. New rules were made to keep volunteers safe, and more people were trained in emergency rescues. Monica was happy to know her story was making a difference. Life slowly returned to normal, but Monica felt changed. She was stronger, more thankful for each day, and more determined to help others. She took long walks with her dog when her foot healed, and spent time with her family, who never stopped worrying about her. One evening, as the sun set over the trees, Monica sat quietly and thought about everything that had happened. She remembered the fear, the pain, and the loneliness, but she also remembered the hope, the kindness of her friends, and the small whisper that saved her life. She smiled, knowing that even the smallest voice can make a big difference if someone is willing to listen. To be continued. After Monica's return to normal life, the days felt both familiar and strangely new. Each morning, she woke up feeling grateful just to open her eyes and see the sunlight spilling into her room. Her ankle healed slowly, and the cast came off. After a few more weeks, she practiced walking again, at first using crutches, then a cane, and finally with nothing at all. Every step reminded her of what she had survived in the swamp, and how lucky she was to be alive. Monica's parents stayed close, visiting often and making sure she had everything she needed. Her mom cooked her favorite meals and brought fresh flowers to brighten the house. Her dad loved sitting with her on the porch, sharing quiet moments, and sometimes telling stories from his own youth. Sometimes they just sat without saying much, but Monica could feel the love in the silence. She knew her parents were still shaken by what had happened, but seeing her grow stronger made them relax, little by little, as her strength returned. Monica began visiting the research center again. Everyone greeted her like a hero, but Monica always blushed and said she was just doing her job. The team had made big changes since her rescue. Now, nobody went into the swamp alone, and everyone carried upgraded radios and GPS trackers. There were safety check-ins every hour, and a rescue kit was always ready. Monica felt proud knowing her experience had helped make things safer for everyone. One special afternoon, Monica was invited to speak at the nearby school. She wore a simple green dress and a gentle smile, her eyes shining with excitement and a little nervousness. The classroom was packed with curious students, teachers, and even some parents. When Monica began her story, the room grew very quiet. She told the children about the day she went into the swamp, how she slipped and hurt her ankle, and how she tried not to lose hope, even when she felt scared and alone. She talked about the animals she loved and the importance of protecting nature. Most of all, she shared how a tiny whisper on the radio, just 2 simple words, one left, was enough to save her life. She told the students, no matter how small your voice feels, it can make a difference. Never stop trying, even when things seem impossible. At the end, the children clapped and several came up to give her a hug. A little girl handed Monica a drawing of a turtle with a bright blue shell and said, "This is Whisper. She's brave, just like you." Letters poured in from people who had heard her story. Some thanked Monica for reminding them to keep hoping when things got hard. Others said they had never thought about how important it is to be careful in nature, but now they would always carry a radio and tell someone where they were going. Monica answered as many letters as she could, always encouraging people to protect themselves and look out for one another. Sarah and Aaron, her closest friends from the research team, visited her often. They spent hours talking about their work, their dreams, and the strange way life can change in a single moment. Monica loved sharing laughter with them, but sometimes they sat in quiet understanding, each remembering those long, frightening hours when Monica was missing. Through everything, their friendship grew deeper and stronger. One bright Saturday, Monica suggested they return to the swamp again, not for work, but just to walk together and enjoy the beauty of the place that had once almost claimed her. With Sarah and Aaron beside her, Monica stepped onto the muddy path, breathing in the earthy air and smiling at the calls of birds in the trees. The fear she once felt was gone, replaced by respect and gratitude for the wild world around her. As they reached the spot where Monica had been found, she stopped for a moment. The ground was dry now, covered in green ferns and small wildflowers. Monica bent down and touched the earth, whispering a thank you. Sarah hugged her, and Aaron squeezed her shoulder. "You're so strong, Monica," he said quietly. They spent the afternoon searching for turtles, following their tracks along the water's edge. It was slow work, but Monica felt patient and peaceful. Near sunset, they saw a familiar shape. Crawling slowly through the reeds, the little turtle Monica had named Whisper. Monica watched with tears in her eyes as the turtle made its way toward the water, just as it had done the day they found her after her rescue. Monica knelt down and spoke softly. "You survived too, didn't you? You waited just like I did." She smiled and let the turtle go, watching as it disappeared into the calm water. In that moment, Monica felt completely whole, as if everything she had gone through had a purpose. The story of Monica's rescue continued to inspire people far beyond her small town. Wildlife groups shared her experience at meetings and workshops, using it to teach volunteers about safety and hope. Monica was invited to more events, where she talked about what she had learned, not just about surviving, but about trusting others, listening, and never losing faith. Even when life felt dark and confusing, as the months passed, Monica returned to the work she loved. She went back into the swamp many times, always with friends or a partner, and always carrying a radio and extra supplies. Never took risks the way she once had, but her sense of wonder for nature grew even deeper. Every turtle she tagged, every bird she counted felt like a small miracle. One evening, Monica sat at her desk, writing in her journal. She wrote about the swamp, about her family and friends, and about the power of hope. She finished her entry with these words: "I was forgotten in the swamp for 32 hours, but I was never truly alone. My whisper was heard, and I found my way home. I will always remember, even when you feel lost, someone is listening. And sometimes, all it takes is a whisper to bring you back." As she closed her journal and looked out the window at the stars, Monica felt at peace. She knew her story would live on, not just in newspapers or in letters from strangers, but in every life she touched by sharing her courage. The swamp was no longer a place of fear for her. It had become a place of hope, friendship, quiet strength, a place where even the smallest voice mattered. And so Monica Reyes moved forward, always listening, always hopeful, ready for whatever the next day would bring.